Good morning, Austin, and welcome to the Atheist Experience. My name is Ray Blevins, my co-host Jeff D, and this week's guest, Janet Swisher. It's also Paul Wilson's wife. Regular viewers might remember Paul Wilson. So we'd love to have some of the ladies of the group in, so I'd like to know that it's not an all-male group. We do have women in the group, yes. This show is brought to you by Atheist Community of Austin, who meets down at Hot Jumble Bakery. As soon as we're done here, we head down to West 5th and Lavaca for the Hot Jumble Bakery. So it's free and open to anyone who wants to come down and meet some atheists in person. We like meeting you there. We had our blood drive yesterday, and I don't have any numbers on how many people, how many pints we had. Can
Vic tell us that?
I don't know.
Vic was there.
Vic, Vic, you made it to the blood drive yesterday?
Yes, I did.
He says yes.
Yes, I don't think the callers can, and the viewers, and Don made it too, so we do have a couple more pints.
How many people, Don?
I appreciate
We had, I think, 4 people there, 2 gay, 2 were cheerleaders.
Okay.
All right. We
So what's that, 2 pints?
2 units. Is
2
how we
units,
go,
okay.
yes. So, and then...
Was it 3? Who was the third? I'm sorry.
There was a third. Okay.
we do appreciate
That is
all
a whole
of
lot
you.
better than nothing.
Yes. And I was trying to remember who our guest speaker is going to be next week. Next Sunday is...
So that's why I was thinking Rowan.
Rowan Whiter will be our guest lecturer for first Sunday of every month. We do our guest speaker series at Furs and North Cross Mall. So that'll be next Sunday, and he's been on the show before. He's definitely very entertaining, intelligent gentleman there, and does a great job. So you'll definitely want to come out and see that. So I think that's about it for Atheist Community of Austin. Just remind everyone that we are coming to you live. This is Halloween, 31st. So we will be taking your phone calls live on the air here shortly. But we always like to start off with news here with Jeff.
And I got a stack of it today.
Yes, you do.
Let's start off with the latest issue of Newsweek. It's got a big article on prophecy, what the Bible says about the end of the world. And luckily, for a change, the media is taking a relatively level-headed view of religion. Let me just read you a couple of clips here. For as long as the early church suffered persecution, John's vision of a divine rescue was both compelling and consoling. By the 3rd century, however, John's apocalypse was widely considered unworthy of being included among the canonical books of the Bible. Jerome and other church founders thought that John's end times vision encouraged religious fanaticism. Reading it, one bishop led his flock out into the desert to await the end, and that his anti-Roman polemics provoked unnecessary civil discord. Augustine defined what soon became the official Catholic position. John's revelation should not be interpreted literally or as future-telling, but as an allegory of the everyday struggle between good and evil. Going on. Indeed, millenarian dreams were a constant problem for Europe's established churches. When a visionary friar informed Pope Benedict XIV that the Antichrist had arrived and was already 3 years old, the Pope was visibly relieved. "Then I shall leave the problem for my successor," he said. What made the apocalypse of John so enduring is that any hated or revered figure could be identified as one of the mythic players in this symbolic end-time scenario. For some in the late Middle Ages, it was Emperor Frederick II. For Frederick's supporters, it was Pope Innocent IV, whose name could be translated into the dread mark of the beast 666. For many Christians, it was Mohammed or the Turks in general, whose armies threatened to devour Europe. Eventually, Napoleon, Hitler, Stalin, and even Mikhail Gorbachev, who seemed to have the mark of the beast on his forehead, entered the list of antichrists.
Shut up! I don't get the connection there, Arlo. Sorry. But that was good. We enjoyed it.
Get away, Satan, don't you bother me.
Okay, get away, Satan, don't you bother me. Gotcha. Exiled on his island, John of Patmos never imagined that his apocalyptic writing would become a handbook for interpreting historical events. Like most first-century Christians, he thought the end was imminent, and one can only wonder how he'd react to those throughout history who have used his vision to justify violence, war, paranoia, and even hate. Then there's a little inset story here, Millennium Madness, talking about the various nutballs coming out of the woodwork to cash in on the Millennium Fever. And there are some very disturbing statistics. Some 40% of U.S. adults, according to Newsweek, believe the world will end as foretold in a battle of Armageddon between Jesus and the Antichrist. 19% of Americans, and nearly half of all those who accept biblical prophecy, believe that the Antichrist is on Earth now.
That's scary, yes.
When asked if they think Jesus will return to the earth during their lifetimes, 18% of American adults answered yes! Roughly 68% of American adults believe they'll go to heaven when they died. Only 3% of those polled believe they're going to hell. Interesting.
But you also had some other news about the Millennium.
Oh yeah, I got more.
Yes.
I got more. Let me try to get through it. We haven't mentioned we only have a 1-hour show today.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me that this is the 5th Sunday of the month, and the TV schedule is screwy on the 5th Sunday, so we're only here for an hour today. So please call in, and we'll try to get to you as quick as we can.
Once again, we're lucky to be on it all because it's a 5th Sunday. And
So we'll be at the bagel shop a half hour earlier.
Yeah, we'll be at the bagel shop a half hour earlier. Yes.
A lot of people may have been there a whole hour earlier if they didn't set the clocks back. Okay, there was a No Saints Day party last night at Mary Sue's. I was lucky enough to attend, as was Janet, and a bunch of other folks. Arlo showed us very, very frightening videotapes, compilations of things that occurred on fundamentalist TV shows and TV preachers saying wacky things.
And you know what? You have finally lost your mind and you're starting to think like God thought for the very first time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And Christian scare films with, like, you know, a lot of Southern Baptists dressed up in robes and beards and pretending to be various biblical figures.
And tormented souls.
And there was this really bizarre thing about worms that I can't even describe. Yeah. Let's see, what else? We talked about the blood drive. News from last Monday, Christian cult detained in Israel again. Israeli police have detained 21 Christians suspected of planning to commit violent acts to mark the end of the millennium. Authorities plan to deport the group of foreigners, mostly Americans, within days. The group lived on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. They were arrested at midnight on Sunday, that was last Sunday, and then driven to a prison in the town of Ramil in central Israel. A police spokesman expressed concern that the group was paving the way for other Christian groups to settle Israel. Their arrests marked the third time since January that Israel has detained Christian groups. Israeli radio reported that the police suspected the group was planning mass suicide or other dangerous acts. But group members have said that they oppose violence. A leader of the group, Brother David, said they were arrested, quote, because we speak the truth and Israel is about to hear the truth in a greater way than ever before, unquote. He said he was a former trailer park owner from Syracuse, New York, and believes that Jesus will return soon. Sister Sharon, 53, of Sacramento, California, said she had just returned from her son's house when police knocked on her door. When I got outside, they told me I was getting arrested. The street was full of police, she said. She also said those detained included Christians from the U.S., Australia, England, and Spain. This was the third time since January that Israel has detained Christian groups. The authorities fear that as the millennium approaches, the country will become the focus of apocalyptic groups. Some commentators believe that the Israeli authorities are ill-prepared for an influx of religious zealots to a city where any perceived threat to holy sites, to sites holy to Jews, Muslims, and Christians can spark violence. But there is also concern that a crackdown on such groups will backfire and that pilgrims will be deterred from visiting the Holy Land, because this is like a huge tourist season.
Yes.
Yeah. Israel says it now expects only 3 million visitors in 2000, half of its original estimate. Tourism officials have attributed the drop to poor marketing and security concerns. What's that?
It's time that the church become armed and dangerous.
Yeah. I just want to inject a short note here. I saw the movie Fight Club twice now, and I think it's great. But I've been noticing there's recently been a big outcry in the media about this film. Once again, the media is jumping the gun, assuming that anything that depicts violence or things they don't approve of, therefore supports those things. Fight Club is ultimately a profoundly anti-violence film, and it just amazes me the way that the media has latched onto that, and now it's a big cause.
I was going to say quickly, because we do want to get Janet in here.
I just wanted to make a comment about this Christian group in Israel, which included members from the U.S., Britain, Australia, etc.
Yeah.
Paul and I had a visitor this week from Scotland, and the topic of atheism and religion came up, actually, because somebody walked up to Paul in a coffee shop and said, "Didn't I see you on TV?" But our visitor, said, we asked, is it common to have religious fundamentalists or other, cultists and so on in Britain? And he said, no, if people are inclined that way, they generally leave and go to the United States.
Oh!
That's great.
All right, well, I'll try to get through this as quick as I can.
Yeah.
Quick note, I'm proud to report that I was knighted on the Alt-Atheism news group. There's a fictitious tongue-in-cheek organization called the BAAWA, or Badass Atheists with Attitude. And people in the group can knight others who they read their posts responding to Christians. And if those posts combine what they perceive as a perfect mix of rationalism and spleen, then you get knighted. So I got knighted, and I'm. Oh, thank you. Thanks very much, Arlo.
Is this just to distinguish you from the people who are benighted?
I'm asked by the audience, is that just to distinguish me from people who are merely benighted, and I'm not sure how to answer that. But I didn't think I'd just let it drop. Anyway, let's move on. Church markets Columbine-like Halloween skit.
Yes, I saw
A
this.
Pentecostal church's haunted hell house, which depicts graphic scenes of abortion, AIDS, teen suicide, and drunk driving, has pulled a controversial school shooting scene in the wake of the Columbine High School massacre. And it goes on about how they apparently package the instructions for how to put up one of these hell houses, and they sell them all over the country, and a lot of churches are doing it, and you pay to get in, and there are churches that are not pulling it. And the people that created it are saying, good for you for not bowing to that pressure from the media. It's just sick and creepy. Let's see. Uncharitable choice. As early as next Thursday, I guess that is this coming Thursday, November 4th, the U.S. House of Representatives will consider legislation that tears down the wall between church and state, forcing individuals to choose between their religious beliefs and seeking government assistance. H.R. 3073, entitled the Fathers Count Act, was introduced by Representative Nancy Johnson, Republican, Connecticut, on October 14. The bill is the latest effort in a legislative movement known as charitable choice that is designed to give taxpayer funds for pervasively religious institutions to provide a variety of social services. Under this legislation, religious institutions could use taxpayer dollars to create religiously based counseling programs that proselytize to their participants. Men who seek out government-sponsored marriage counseling or parenting programs might then have to choose between counseling which is at odds with their own religious beliefs or leave the program altogether. So pay attention to what's going on in the government, folks. Battling for souls. As the millennium approaches, Christians and Hindus intensify struggles for influence in India. Nathuyanavat, India. Nathubhai Ganga shudders as he remembers the Hindu radicals who came to his dirt-poor village, pushed him into a spring to be scrubbed clean of Christ, and forced him to worship a picture of Hanuman, the Hindu monkey god. On that hot January day, the middle-aged farmer became one more pawn in a battle for souls that has heated up in the jungles and villages of western India in the past year. The approach of the millennium has pushed Christian evangelists to set new targets for conversion, claiming an urgency, in the language of one group, the Friends Missionary Prayer Band, to redeem India from the hands of the devil. And it just goes on and on and on about how these guys are forcibly converting one another back and forth. One is reminded of the Dr. Seuss story, the Sneetches, right? With the star-bellied Sneetches, where anyway, if you didn't get that, too bad, because we're out of time. So that's that. More quick news.
Thank you.
From News of the Weird last week, didn't get to do it last week, I don't think, because did I do the Breatharians?
I thought you did.
Did I do the Breatharians? Okay, I'll skip that one. 16 people are still in prison for lengthy sentences entirely as a result of wildly inconsistent and heavily coached testimony from children that they were ritualistically molested years ago by adults in daycare centers in Massachusetts and North Carolina as part of a wave of sexual abuse in Wenatchee, Washington. Though appeals court decisions in August and September increased to 9, the number of people subsequently released. I think I did talk about that too, but I just thought that's so creepy that I should bring it up again. The Salem Witch Trials aren't over, folks. We had another one just recently, and a lot of people don't seem to have noticed it. There was this wave of belief in recovered memories, and the memories recovered largely had to do with satanic ritual abuse, which turned out to be completely made up. These beliefs were drummed into the heads of these kids by what's the word I'm looking for? By psychiatrists that were sick. As Y2K nears, FBI cautions against extremist criminal activity. This was, I guess, in last week's Chronicle, or last week's Statesman. The FBI plans to warn state and local police to be alert for possible attacks at the turn of the millennium by hate or apocalyptic groups or lone wolf members of them. There are no specific threats, but we often alert law enforcement agencies about impending dates with significance for potential terrorists, FBI spokesman Bill Carter said Wednesday. Each year, for example, the FBI reminds state and local law enforcement of the anniversary of the April 19, 1995 bombing of the Murray Federal Building in Oklahoma City and the 1993 federal assault on the Branch Davidians. So basically, yeah, people should be scared that we have 18% of people in the United States actually believing that by... What?
We can't do the video.
That stinks.
We had a video clip that...
All right, we'll do without. There are 18% of the people in this country actually believe that before they die, all this apocalyptic end time stuff is going to come true, and that's crazy enough. But apparently, anybody who believes that has a pretty good chance of being willing to do just about anything. So, we'll just skip the Skeptical Inquirer because we don't have time. I did that. Christian counsel urged in Columbine case, Denver. A Christian lawyer who had represented a student injured in the Columbine high school shootings has warned the boy's family against hiring Jewish lawyers. Denver lawyer Anthony Sterniolo confirmed he sent a letter dated October 14 to the unnamed family after the family decided to hire Michigan lawyer Jeffrey Fieger and local co-counsel Howard Zucker. He told the Denver Post in Saturday's editions that it was important for a Christian lawyer to represent Christian families. Quote, you have hired 2 Jewish attorneys, and Mr. Fieger in the past has been quoted openly ridiculing anyone who believed in Jesus. I know that... What was that?
Sorry about that, guys. A little technical problems.
I know that you are committed Christians, and I do not want you to be led astray into a position that might be a poor witness to our Lord. That's pretty sick.
Yes.
And one last thing.
Sure.
There's been in the news Rick Willits, who was accused of molesting boys at the Great Hills Baptist Church.
Had a previous...
apparently they knew that... I'm not going to go through this whole story, but apparently they knew or had reason to believe that he had done this before, and they hired him anyway. Okay.
So now there's
that was
the
as fast
video
as I could get
will
through
run,
that.
but
Okay.
I'd still like to give Janet some time here, right? Because we're only on an hour, so and you had.
Yeah, we're going to do her first and then get into the topic.
Well, I wanted to share the current issue of the Humanist magazine, which has a bunch of good stuff in it. This is the November-December 1999 issue, and the headline is, "In Case of Armageddon, this will be your last issue." So it's got a couple of good articles about apocalyptic thinking, both in current politics and in the historical roots of them and so forth. I haven't actually had a chance to read those articles. This just arrived yesterday, but a couple of things that I have had a chance to look at. There's a nice piece in here by Barbara Ehrenreich, who was given a Humanist of the Year award last year by the American Humanist Association, and I believe at next week's Freedom from Religion Foundation she'll also be getting an award from them. She's a columnist and author and entertaining writer. This article is "Everything I Like About Religion I Learned from an Atheist."
That's a great title.
And it's about the fact that she comes from 4 generations of atheists and freethinkers, that her family has roots in the 19th century free thought movement, which was in large part a movement of less educated working class people who basically had the attitude, you got to think for yourself because people who claim to think for you are probably out to rip you off. Her last paragraph is, "Well, I'm happy to be part of the atheist community. Despite all my respect for the liberal theologians and the Buddhists and monks and the Christian peace activists and so forth, there's no way I could sign on to one of those religions, and not just because of my own irrepressible skepticism. In my case, there's another reason why I have to remain a practicing atheist, and that's family values." So, another good article in this issue is on why people believe in God, and it's by Michael Shermer, who's the publisher of Skeptic magazine and has also now has a TV show on Fox Family, which is kind of a skeptical
Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. on the Fox Family channel.
And he has just finished an empirical study along with Frank Sulloway from MIT. They did a random sample of Americans and did an extensive survey. They got 1,000 people to respond. Interestingly, of their 1,000 participants, only 64% said that they believe in God, which is different from most surveys that find that more like 90% of Americans believe in God. They think that may be because their sample turned out to be significantly more educated than the average American, and higher education tends to correlate with less religiosity. And they're not sure why they ended up with more educated people, but it's possibly because their survey was kind of extensive and complicated, and educated people are more likely to put up with that. They found that the 3 strongest predictors of religiosity and belief in God are being raised religiously, gender, that women are more religious than men in general, and parents' religiosity. They found that socioeconomic status had no direct influence on religious belief. Political beliefs were correlated with religious beliefs, with conservatives being more religious and liberals less religious. Or there are religious people in both parties, but a liberal is more likely to be non-religious than a conservative. Again, they think that's because religion is sort of the status quo, and someone with a conservative bent is going to stick with the status quo. They tested their participants on 5 personality dimensions to see what correlated with religious belief. So the personality...
Latest preacher is Dr. Jerry Falwell, and he expresses my views on this subject perfectly. Satan is a real person, and the demons of hell are real entities.
Because she found a new boyfriend.
Wait till she meets his family.
What is going on out there, guys?
Quickly, oh no, just look at this place.
My cleaning spell's a little rusty, but it'll do in a pinch.
What is going on?
I don't know where you went with that one, Arlo. The first part was good. The second part, I'm not sure.
I'm guessing that was from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
There you
The thing was, we're trying to set the VCR for that Falwell thing. It stopped automatically, and you heard what was playing on TV.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Bizarre. Okay.
Nothing to do with me.
Okay.
Hear my name.
Okay. Well, cue that Falwell tape up again, will you?
All right.
Okay, sorry about that. Continue.
Okay,
Janet.
so they tested people on openness to experience, extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and neuroticism as the 5 personality dimensions. They found that a higher ranking on the openness dimension was associated with lower levels of religiosity and higher levels of doubt. There was also a modest association between birth order and openness, with later-borns scoring higher on openness than firstborns. There was a significant correlation on the agreeableness scale, that religious people are more tender-minded and less religious people are more tough-minded. And so overall, belief in God was significantly related to being conservative and being tender-minded, or perhaps a compassionate conservative. As far as reasons that people believe in God, men tended to justify their belief with rational reasons, while women tended to justify their belief with emotional reasons. There was also a significant relationship between openness and a tendency to prefer rational reasons over belief, over emotional reasons. So they have a...
I like this particular part here, that they phrased the question in 2 different ways.
Right, so they asked people both for reasons why they themselves believe in God and reasons why they think other people believe in God. And there were definitely some disparities here. 28% of people said that they believe in God because of the good design of the universe, but they only thought that 6% thought that other people believed for that reason. 10% said that they gave their reason as for comfort or giving purpose to life, but 26% thought that other people believed for those reasons. So again, more people tended to give rationalistic reasons for themselves and attribute emotional reasons to other people, which Shermer calls an intellectual attribution bias, where we consider our own actions to be rationally motivated and the actions of others to be emotionally driven.
But it also shows how people they're concerned about what other people think, and they're wanting to fit into the group there, so that they'll go along because they think everybody else is doing that.
Another significant difference was fear of death as a reason for believing, and 0% said that they believed because they were afraid of death, but 9.1% thought that they thought that other people believed because of fear of death. So, very, very interesting findings here.
I would have to go along with that too, because of the callers that we get. They talk about what the afterlife, and they make it sound like they're really afraid of death also. So
well, and they make it sound like we should be afraid of death.
Yeah,
and that should be a persuasive reason. But certainly, the good design of the universe is a topic that comes up a lot of times.
So, what was the single biggest reason?
Good design of the universe.
That they said they believed.
Yes. So that was 28.6% said that they believed because of the good design of the universe more than any other category.
That's awfully popular.
I haven't actually checked to make sure whether they were allowed to give more than one answer, or whether these add up to more than 100%. It doesn't look like they do. So
just remind everyone, we are coming to you live the 31st, October 31st. It is Halloween. That is our telephone number.
And we only got about half an hour of a show left.
Yeah, we got.
So call in.
We'll be glad to take your questions live on the air.
Now,
go ahead. Sorry.
Is there anything in there about just an overall tendency to believe in the supernatural, or any? Was there anything in the study that checked that?
I guess they didn't talk about other kinds of belief in the supernatural other than belief in God, or not that was mentioned here.
How many believe in the ghost?
But,
and also
right.
Good question.
And particularly because they said that their 3 strongest predictors were being raised religiously, and parents' religiosity would again, goes specifically towards belief in God. Although I suppose if you were, raised by people who believe in lots of New Age spiritualism, you'd be more likely to believe that stuff.
Sure. Well,
I meant to bring in this month's Reader's Digest, and I'll bring it next week, because that is one of the most conservative magazines that are out there. They're talking about a new species, how easy it is for a new species of flu virus to develop, and they're showing a diagram right in there, and it says right in there, brand new species, and it just blows me away that they're all we get calls all the time about evolution bringing out new species, and it was right there, an excellent article, and they was talking about how there was that we're not prepared for the possible flu epidemics that could come from that.
Actually, speciation in viruses is kind of a weird thing since they don't directly reproduce. It's hard to say whether you can have a species of viruses, but certainly new strains of viruses come up all the time.
They actually use the term species in the article, but that's a good point there. You want to do the video real quick?
I'll take a call.
Okay, let's try a caller, and then we'll topic. Let's see if the phones are working right here. Blay?
Hello?
Hello?
We're not hearing the phones.
Caller?
We got no dial tone, we got no nothing. Hello?
Hello? Caller?
Caller.
We lost it there.
Sorry.
We'll work on the phones here.
Please call back.
If you're ready for the video, let's try that video.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. Let me introduce it.
Okay.
I was thinking since it's Halloween, and in light of this videotape that Arlo showed at the party last night, which is really impressed me in a certain way. The thing is, Christians, a lot of Christians freak out about Halloween because they actually believe that there's these demonic, occult forces swirling around and that it's really dangerous. In fact, a lot of towns around the country where they have a lot of religious influence in their local governments, this has been in the news, they bumped Halloween to yesterday so Halloween wouldn't fall on a Sunday.
Yes.
Arguing that their reason was, it would be bad for kids getting to school. But come on, I mean, this is Christians doing this. We know why they don't want to have Halloween on a Sunday. Just to illustrate my point about how easy it is for people that believe in one supernatural thing, in this case God, to believe in a whole bunch of other ridiculous supernatural nonsense. Here's Jerry Falwell to give you his views. Run that tape.
There we go.
Real person. And the demons of hell are real entities. They are persons who are sent about to devour and destroy those who represent the living Christ. A man who doesn't accept the supernatural forces round about him is not aware of what the Bible really teaches. If ever there was a time when Christians need to be awakened to these demonic forces, the presence of real demons from a real hell who have a real mission to destroy God's people and God's witness for Christ, if ever there was a time we needed an awareness of this, it is now. If you believe that, say amen.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Arlo. Yeah.
So, I mean, because all the time we're reporting on, there's that series of children's books about a kid that's a magician that the Christians are up in arms about now, or it's Halloween, or Christians freak out about this stuff because they actually believe that it's true, and that just floors me.
Understand this, my brother. I'm in a dimension that few people understand.
Great job.
That was Tilton. Bob Tilton?
My favorite preacher. Well, my second favorite preacher after Brother Paul.
I'm not going to have time to do a review of it, but I'm just going to mention this book since I read it recently, and there's Ray. And can we get a close-up on the book? That would be you, Don. Don?
Oh, no, it's not, it doesn't.
Can we get a close-up?
Yeah, they're working on that, yes.
The book is called Sleeping with Extraterrestrials, The Rise of Irrationalism and the Perils of Piety by Wendy Kaminer. I saw this book discussed in Skeptical Inquirer, and so I went out and got it. And boy, if you've watched the show, you know I am a hard ass when it comes to believing in the supernatural, and this woman is not. She is willing to accept that it's okay for people to believe in this kind of stuff, as long as they don't let it affect their anything else. And okay, fine. I'm sure that's probably a more appealing message than what I would have to say about it. But that's an important thing to keep in mind if you read this. But I recommend the book. She does an excellent job showing how various supernatural beliefs, including belief in God, have interfered with public policy decisions, with the way our society is, and caused great damage over the years. Then I'll do a fuller review of that at some point.
Fantastic.
What's her background or qualifications? That's a name that I've heard before, I think.
Let's see. She is the author of 5 previous books, including I'm Dysfunctional, You're Dysfunctional. Her articles and reviews have appeared in the New York Times, Newsweek, The Nation, and The New Republic. She is a contributing editor to The Atlantic Monthly and a fellow at Radcliffe College. It doesn't say if she's a psychologist or what she is. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think I've heard.
She's a commentator.
Are you a virgin?
I don't know that about her either, Arlo.
But it.
Woo!
Beg your pardon?
If the Christians would do the research there and find out where this holiday, the pagan roots of this holiday, for the longest time, our calendars did not include the winter months. Our calendar ended at the end of this month and did not start back up till April 1st. The winter was totally useless. We did no growing, so there was no need to track the winter months. So this was actually the end of our year.
Oh.
And it became known that the spirits then rose from the dead and walked the earth during those winter months here or whatever. And so they started dressing up to basically hide themselves from the spirits. And one of the main spirits one of the main forms they took was the black cat. A lot of the spirits, and so that's where the black cat comes in and everything. It's all pagan roots there. It's another holiday with.
That's right. It's pagan stuff, and yet these Christians are believing that it actually exists, and that's just deeply silly. I mean, I could almost get it if a religion said, okay, well, here's the supernatural things we believe in, right, and we'll draw the line there, and everybody else that claims supernatural stuff, well, they're just lying. But they actually appear to get off on or make a selling point for their religion on the idea that other religions or other approaches to the supernatural are all true and they're all evil except for theirs.
But and I don't remember when All Saints Day actually came in about there, but see, that's how they tied it
right.
in.
Yeah, they twisted it.
Yeah, they twisted it over to that so that...
another medieval Catholic invention, I think.
Right.
Well, Christianity itself rests upon a claim of the supernatural, and it's not even God. It's the idea that you've got this thing called a soul, and that it's a thing that's really you, and that bad things will happen to it if you don't do what they say. But there is no evidence whatsoever that human beings have souls, that anything like that exists. All the evidence shows that we are biological beings. When our bodies stop working, when our brain stops producing the thing we call consciousness, that's it. That's the end. It's not pretty, but that's the way it is. And to leap from that to,
I find more peace in the knowledge knowing that that is the end, that's it, and it's over with, than whether taking a chance that I'm going to end up in hell or whatever else.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I was in a bookstore the other day.
Or get reincarnated back and forth and go through it several times.
You're right. Thank you for saying that, because that reminds me. I was in a bookstore yesterday and I picked up Philosophy for Dummies. And I say picked up, I mean I stood there and I paged through it. I didn't actually buy the damn thing.
I was looking through that too.
And boy, is it. Especially if you're an atheist. Atheism, I looked through this thing, I said, well, let's look up what they have to say about atheism. And there's this really short chapter, and they basically give it short shrift. And I said, well, maybe that's because it's one of these For Dummies books, and they're just giving sort of an overview of everything, you know, and if the guy's not an atheist, of course he would spin it. Well, no, there's this huge section on theism. All the pro-theism arguments are listed, and one of the interesting things in the book is that they have paragraphs marked with little symbols. And there's one for like a good idea when it's something really special and important that you need to know.
They have the different icons,
and one of the good ideas that they had was this argument for there being an afterlife called the argument from desire. And the premise is that, well, people want food, we have hunger, and food exists, and we want sex, and like sexual partners exist, and we want all these other things. There's like this big laundry list of things that we might want that really do exist. And then, so if we want to live, well, if we want to have life after death must exist. And this is marked as a good idea. That is so kooky. Ray here just told us that just destroyed that premise. There are, in fact, bunches of people that aren't that excited about living forever or having an afterlife. They're all over the place. So that premise is just false.
Well, and
but
as
worse,
we know as a truism that even if you want something with all your heart, you still might not get it.
right. But even worse, the thing is, what's life after death? Well, it's more life. Right? And life is a thing that exists that we have, and we don't want it to run out. There is food, but we don't want our food to run out either. You know, we want to think that there will be more food, and we want to think there will be more life. It's just this vacuously stupid argument, and yet there it is. Philosophy for Dummies.
I'm so glad you brought up that, because the same people who did that put together a book. It's the same format and everything, but it's called The Idiot's Guide to the Bible.
Yeah.
I just love that title.
Well,
how sweet to be an idiot, as harmless as a clown.
Yeah.
that's great.
Hardly. These idiots are nearly in charge of our government.
So let's try our phones here before we run out of time. You're Wes?
Yeah.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Wes.
Hi, Wes.
Hey, I watch the show every chance I get.
Thank you.
A lot of times, you try to call in, you can't get in because there's so many people trying to call in.
Yeah.
Today, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of Christians trying to get into you today.
Well, the time change screwed them up.
There's the time change. It's Halloween. Yeah, I'm sure they're preparing for their.
Well, you know what I was thinking?
Yeah, they partied last night.
Yeah, they're hungover.
A lot of the Christian belief is based in fear to begin with.
Yeah.
Right?
And then I think a lot of the Christian callers that call in are motivated by fear too, because there's some fear there. You guys might be right. And so I think today maybe they're not calling in because it's Halloween and it's Sunday, and that's some scary stuff there. They might actually go to hell immediately if they talk to you guys today.
They're home praying with their Bibles, afraid to come out.
Just sort of hedging the bet.
All right.
Making sure that, well, maybe I'll call in next Sunday, won't be Halloween, might not be quite so dangerous.
Yeah.
I appreciate you
I
coming.
would bet on it if I was them.
You have a great week.
All right, thanks.
All right, let's try to get as many as we can here. Robert?
Yeah.
Hiya, Robert.
Hey, how are y'all today?
Boo!
Good.
Boo, yes. All right, quickly.
First question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are y'all aware of the researcher who recently did a study on various stuff? I believe his last name was Gottlieb, and his conclusion was that belief in the supernatural was an evolutionary thing that has come about in humans to deal with the finality of death.
I've heard of it secondhand.
Maybe I can't see where there's a evolutionary mechanism there. I mean, it's not like the species would have trouble surviving if we want to fear death, sure. So we have self-preservation, but beyond that, I don't see where you get directly from that to to belief in the supernatural.
Right. Plenty of species have plenty of mechanisms for avoiding being eaten and so on without having religion. Although it might be a combination of that and having some degree of intelligence, but I'm not sure that it's specific.
There is some degree of intelligence.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've heard of that secondhand, and I'd have to do more research on that.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting point of view, and we can't really talk about it.
Did you find the argument convincing yourself?
Well, I mean, from the standpoint that y'all were talking about earlier, that there seems to be some correlation with lower education and lower intelligence factors and belief in God.
Yeah.
And in those cases, certainly, I think that that is a compelling argument. You know, these people may not have enough awareness of themselves and the environment around them to be self-preservationist without some sort of silly belief.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting point of view.
Yeah, unfortunately, that tends to lead you into kind of tenuous sociobiological arguments that, you know, have gotten people in trouble earlier in this century. So that's the kind of theorizing that you want to be extremely careful about.
Yeah, my guess about all this stuff is that there's nothing special about belief in the supernatural. It's just belief in stuff, and it seems perfectly reasonable to me that that people would evolutionarily have a tendency to like latch on to theories, because the theories really sometimes pan out and are useful, but you got to be interested enough in them to like think about them in the first place.
Right.
But then you got to be smart enough to dump them when they turn out not to be true. And it's that smart enough to dump them when they turn out not to be true bit that I think gets people in trouble.
All right. I only have an hour today, so I need to go as many calls as I can.
Can I share one quick thing with you?
Sure.
My personal motto in life: I don't believe in any race, tribe, religion, or creed. I only believe in you and your human needs.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. I kind of like that.
I like that. You have a great week.
There we go.
Let's go on down to Lisa.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. I'm curious. You said something that when you die, you die. I mean, you don't think that anything happens after that, and I'm just.
Well, all kinds of things happen after that, but you're not involved.
My question is this: if you have this tremendous consciousness as an individual, is it your belief as an atheist that consciousness just goes away?
Yeah.
Correct.
That it just ends?
Yeah.
Correct.
I was under the understanding.
Come on, Arlo.
I thought that was the phone at first. I was under the understanding, and I might be wrong, I don't know, that like when matter changes, that you cannot destroy matter, that matter just...
Right.
Right.
But you know what you can do to matter? Is you can take like a structure made out of matter and you can beat the crud out of it so it no longer has the structure it used to have.
Matter can become less organized than it is, and we...
I just find it very difficult.
Well, I don't...
That something as wondrous as a consciousness can just disappear. I think that's...
I don't see any evidence for the consciousness to be an entity that would have mass or energy.
Isaac Asimov did a really nice essay on this subject, and he compared consciousness to a building, right? You can take a ball and chain and you can break that building into all of its individual bricks and have a big pile of bricks. Well, where did the building go? Well, the building didn't go anywhere, really. The building was the pattern that those bricks were arranged in.
Right, but
and you smash up that pattern, it's gone.
The bricks did not go away. The bricks...
Right, and the matter of your brain doesn't go away. Nobody's suggesting that. But the matter of your brain, once it's no longer has the intricate structure that generates what we call consciousness, there's no consciousness being generated, even if the matter's still there.
Well, I think the matter... Well, the bricks are still there,
so?
It's improbable that they cannot be arranged again?
Where does a flame go when you blow the candle out?
Well, it turns into the smoke. It's matter.
It's just not a flame anymore.
Right.
Right, it's something else.
So a consciousness isn't a consciousness anymore.
It stops being consciousness.
It goes into this basic building blocks of the molecules and atoms that, it decomposes.
Right.
But the consciousness itself does not decompose. The molecules and elements...
not decompose. I'm just confused because you say there's no soul.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see your point on that, but there's no soul.
Okay.
There's no evidence for a soul.
But there's bricks left over to create.
So, those bricks are like your neurons. And once your body is no longer...
They cannot be destroyed.
Yes, neurons can be destroyed because neurons are complex arrangements of molecules. And you can break those up. The individual atoms are still there, but they'll be scattered, they break apart, they stop doing what they normally did, and what they did was this thing that we call consciousness. When they stop doing it, it's over.
And we have a comment from our studio audience.
Go ahead.
And
we have a comment.
If you look at research over the last few decades in psychology and cognition, there's an enormous amount of evidence that it's the brain that creates consciousness.
Yeah, I can see
Which mic? Which camera? Okay. There's an enormous amount of evidence that it is the structure of the brain that makes consciousness what it is. That if you have lesions, damage to various regions of the brain, it changes your consciousness in various ways. It looks very much like consciousness is a brain function. If you damage certain parts of the brain, people can't form long-term memories. They live just entirely in the moment, and they form no new memories. So there's this one guy who, for example, for 40 years has thought he is 19 years old. And there's other people who have problems with short-term memory, and you can split someone's brain in half, and you find out that there's essentially two consciousnesses in there. In one half of the brain you have the verbal half, and in the other half you have the visual half. And normally they're fairly well coordinated. But when you split the brain, you end up basically with two people in one head. There isn't some mysterious substance that's consciousness, that's some single point of your being. Consciousness is a brain function. You can split it in half, you can destroy it, you can change all of its fundamental properties. And people have discovered this from various people who have strokes, where different regions of the brain are damaged. And you have people who, for example, can't understand words anymore. They can hear words, they can recognize them. And you have people who can't recognize faces anymore. That the way you recognize a face is largely subconscious, and you don't realize it, but face recognition is this very highly evolved brain function, and when you do damage it, it doesn't work anymore, and you can see a face as a physical object, but you can't see it as a human face anymore.
All right.
So the evidence is just overwhelming that when the brain stops working, consciousness goes away.
The fact that your consciousness goes on because the building blocks are there, and they can come into contact with something else. And because there's evolution, it's going to start from something small.
But ma'am.
But consider this. Consider this. If I have a pickup truck and I scrap it and melt it down, where does the truckness go? Truckness is not a property of the building blocks. Truckness is a property of how they're put together. And there's every...
Okay, that's enough on this subject.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am, we appreciate your point of view, but there is no evidence of any consciousnesses living in anything other than like alive brains. And I agree with you. If you could take the matter of your brain and put it back together so it was a functional brain again, you'd have that consciousness back. I agree with that, but that does not in fact happen. So that's life.
No, you don't.
Do you see many brains floating around?
Well, I really got to go.
Okay, let's move on.
Appreciate your call, and you have a great week. Mary's gone, so we're going down to Virginia. Virginia?
Hi there. I'm just going to switch gears real quick because I have to make a comment. I was listening to KLBJ radio, I believe, the other day. There's a lot of controversial discussion about prayer in football games.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised that there were hardly any, or really I don't think there were any atheists that called in on that show that morning to depict their opinion in the situation. And as an atheist myself, I have to say that I have noticed more and more that Christians are so bold and so self-righteous, and that they try so hard to push their views on other people, while I've noticed that people who are free of thought tend more to ignore it, and I fear that ignoring it is perpetuating the problem.
So next time, ma'am, call that show.
I'm sorry, what?
Next time, call in yourself.
I would have loved to. I didn't have the phone number, and I think it's kind of odd because they don't advertise their phone number.
I agree with you. There were a bunch of atheists, though, in Santa Fe, Texas, protesting one of these pre-football game prayers at the local high school. I know because I was one of them, and that was a very rewarding thing to do. So yeah, atheists get active.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I've made that comment. And you guys are doing great. And
well, we want to invite you down to the Hot Jumbo Bakery. Once we get down here, we're going to head right down there. And, we have 30, 40 of atheists down there every week.
Thank you.
And maybe atheists need to listen to KLBJ more, even if they don't enjoy it, just so they can call in.
That's why I don't.
I'd love to get Amanda on camera before we run out of time.
Okay.
Such a great
Goody,
job
Amanda, you want to come over here on camera? You want to go quicker than that? We're running out of time. No, you're not on camera. Get on camera.
There we go.
We have a Salem witch here,
Yes,
commemorating the poor, unfortunate people who were
She's in the
killed
shadows
by
there.
loving Christians.
Yes. So there's your spirit there. Yes, she did not die. We still have spirits here haunting this studio. Thank you, Amanda.
Do we got time for Falwell again?
Just run him again.
No, they probably don't have it queued up.
As you say, this the fifth Sunday. It comes up every once in a blue moon. That's a joke. And so that's why it's an odd. It has nothing to do with Halloween and demons or anything else. But we only have an hour this morning, so we'll be ending here shortly. So if you're having problems getting through on the phone, our voicemail is 371-2911. Feel free.
There are no souls. There are no demons. There are no angels. There is no heaven. There is no hell. These are all metaphors. That's all it is.
Let's go to line 6.
This is the devil calling from hell.
Yeah.
Yes, and because today's his day, it's Halloween. Yes, we had to have the devil on. Thank you there.
Yeah.
We're down.
I'll tell you what all those things make is great sources of entertainment. Some of the greatest movies have been horror films.
Yes.
And
some of the best comedies too.
Some of the greatest books I've ever read, Lord of the Rings, fantasy novel. That's all perfectly legitimate as long as you understand that it's entertainment.
Yes.
Although if you don't believe in spirits and whatever, then the exorcism isn't quite as scary as it is otherwise.
I can still enjoy stuff like that. Ghost with Patrick Swayze, one of my favorite films, but it's about something that I absolutely don't believe is actually happening. But it's a clever film and it's emotionally effective. That's fine.
And like Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense. As long as you don't make the mistake of believing the stuff is actually going on, that's fine.
All right, let's
we got one more. Do we have time?
One last caller. Yeah. Roy?
Hi, Roy.
Hello.
Yeah, you're our last caller.
Hey, you guys. Just wanted to say you guys are doing a great show, and gee, some people are so stupid, you know, believing in this Jesus stuff.
They just need to be educated.
Hey, man, I'm just kidding. We're not really satanic like that, but God bless you guys.
Go on, Roy.
All right.
All right.
Hey, just kidding. You gotta take it easy.
All right, you have a great week.
All right, bye.
Friend of yours?
I don't recognize the voice.
The Messiah! I say you are Lord, and I should know. I've followed a few.
This is such a weird show.
Yes, this is one of our weirdest ones, yes. So, Janet,
no Messiah in here. There's a mess, all right, but no Messiah.
There's a mess, but no Messiah.
He's not coming back, folks. Your 2,000 years are nearly up. We shouldn't have given you that many. Get over it.
We only have a minute or two left. Would you like anything else that we didn't get to that you'd like to say, Janet?
Well, I had a whole bunch of stuff, but we don't have time for it, so I'll just have to come back.
Yes, yeah, you will definitely have to come back. We definitely enjoyed having you on the show. Let's do the love thing there, Vic. Yeah. Well, we've got to add some color to it. Yeah.
Why is our love yellow today?
Colors of the season.
That's sending our love out to Austin there. We love you.
Oh, there it's pink. Oh, multicolored.
Yeah, we're doing a rainbow, yeah.
You gotta keep sending
fine. It's all imaginary, folks. Enjoy it, but don't get carried away.
Happy Halloween. Have a great time.
Bye-bye. No, there's only 20 seconds left.
Things on my chest, need to confront.